Got so you're listening to Politics on Navajo Nations, Cal Ness. Thank you for coming, joining us this evening again. We are once again live. There's a lot of interviews out there that haven't happened. There's a lot of interviews that did happen. Um, about literally 50% of the Navajo Nation presidents did not um, did not come through. That's a problem. But tomorrow I've got President Boo Van Nygren. So I just want to say a few things. The election is getting close. This is very serious time. I'm asking all you voters out there to seriously consider these people that have taken the time to be interviewed. They are respectful of you. This podcast is not about Calnez. This podcast is on behalf of the Navajo people. I'm doing it for you so that you can intelligently, without being forced, coerced, or even making a decision on the fly. You're going to make a decision based on truth. You're going to make a decisions based on the character. It doesn't matter if they are male or if they're female. That should never be a requisite to selecting an elected official. I am deeply troubled by the many people who sit there and say, well, yes, I want to try uh, a woman president or woman council delegate. I think it should be about character. I think it should be about truth. So that's where we're at. And I'm asking you to seriously think about this thing. One thing that I don't stand by is when people are saying, I'm just going to support this person because I ate at their booth and they had the best mutton stew. Or you just join in because they ask you to. They might ask you to. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go. You know what? They're not the power. You have the power. This is your time, Navajo Nation, for you to make a decision. Think about that. Tonight we have a guest that's been here with us. We have MARSHA Greyeyes, and she will announce which chapter she's running for. And so I'd like to turn the time over to her. MARSHA, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Nez. Good evening on this Sunday, July 12th. I just want to say hello to everybody. It's about, it's almost 7, and apologize for a little delay that we had. My name is MARSHA Greyeyes. I'm running for delegate from the Nazasan, Oljeto, Shanto, and Zapikin region. And I'm hopefully replacing former delegate, or will be former delegate, Herman Daniels Jr. from Oljeto. I currently serve as the president for Shanto Community Governance. It is my first term as president. Previously, I served as the vice president to also a running mate that I have, Mr. Roland Small Canyon. I served under his administration in the previous, the previous administration. prior to that, I spent about 1 year under my other running mate, Mr. Felix Fuller, who is president of Shanto Community Governance as well. In our region, 3 of us, the 3 that are running, are all from Shanto in various capacities. I'm coming to you live from my homestead where I was raised. I grew up here in East Toronto. Normally I'm elsewhere, but today found me here, and I'm grateful for that. We have overcast skies, but just to make a long story short, my great grandmother was from this area. Her roots, though, go back into Loop Western Agency. Story is that there was no rain in that area, so her family moved out here to the east part of Shanto way before my time. So that is just a little bit about me. My great grandmother has since passed. I do have my grandma, who's the daughter to my great grandmother, and she is currently our mother. My own mother passed about 3 years ago, so that my father. But my mom was a single parent for a long time. I think, like with most, I hate to say most, with a majority of my friends, I guess, we kind of had similar childhoods. Very few of my friends or people that I associate with have both parents. So it's been an interesting ride in all of that muddle. But that's not to say that I also have extended family members, aunts and uncles, who had a big hand in raising me and shaping me into the person that I am, and also have been very helpful in my campaign in the last few months. And I do get a lot of support from them. And I'm really thankful for that. Or my uncles, there's 3 of them as well. And they have been a big support, and also their children, my cousins, I do have 6 siblings, 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters, and 2 younger brothers. They are dispersed across the nation, meaning the US. They have their own jobs that they do, and I'm here on the reservation, also doing what I can to help with advancing overall our community and our people forward. So back to you, Mr. Ness.
Zonia, well, welcome again.
Mm-hmm.
So, taking it back to your chapters right now, you're running for Kin, and then you've got Nazis on J Shanto Community Governance. What have you learned since you announced your candidacy to this point?
Let me just say this. I've had been visiting a lot of these chapters. There's an initiative that we're working on, I should say, with some of the leaders in the area. Specifically, it's Afikin, President Curley, Tellert Curley, who is the current sitting president for Afikin, also the Nasa region chair, and also the chair for Western Agency. We're both certified chapters, Afikin and Shanto. Shanto was the first certified chapter back in 1999, I believe. We're coming on our 27th anniversary as a certified chapter. I only say this because Afikin is currently the last certified chapter of the Navajo Nation. The other two chapters, Natsusan and Aljeto, are not, I hate to use the certified chapter, but not LGA certified. I guess that's the distinction. Local governance certified chapter. And when I started off in the ranks, I was what you call an East representative for Shanta's alternative form of governance. If you see me back then, I was pretty much unsure what I would be doing or how things ran. But in that duration of time, I started researching, gathering knowledge, gathering information, reading materials, and asking a lot of questions. And fortunately for me, I have some people that I knew or know currently that helped me with the knowledge base on a lot of these things, or pointed me in directions on which way to go, or questions that needed to be answered, or even coached me on some of the topics that I should know more about. But what I didn't, I should say, what I didn't know from the onset to now is the amount of people that I would meet. I met a lot more people. I've heard a lot of different stories. I shouldn't say stories, life, I guess, the lives of people as they come forward and share their ideas and also their difficulties, the things they might come against, and also the bureaucratic processes that we're all subject to. I think the humanness is sometimes not really considered. I mean, case in point, a family seeking assistance from social services because one of their loved ones passed away. And this particular individual wasn't registered with any chapter, but resided in the boundaries of one of the NOS region chapters. And the bureaucratic process is that a chapter or the administration or staff would vouch that somebody was registered or did live within their boundaries based on the registration of the person as a voter for that chapter. And that's a policy, that's a procedure as well. And I think what we really need to focus on, or at that point, is the human aspect. Like, you have a grieving family. The last thing they want to hear is like, hey, we don't know if your individual, your loved one existed. Essentially, that seems to be what we're saying with some of the policies. So my thing is that that's why we have people in these positions, in these, I guess, capacity, where we don't have robots, where it's just yes and no, black and white. We need to bring color back into some of our interactions, color meaning love, charity, empathy, and so forth. So I think that's an aspect that's been lost in the bureaucratic red tape, and that goes across the board. It's not just a finite level. It goes all the way to our interactions overall. So I think the way that I hear a lot of people saying this is we got to bring kinship back. And I wasn't really understanding that, but in my interactions, I'm beginning to realize the role that kinship and plays in not just our everyday interactions, but in Navajo culture itself. I guess in the private sector, in business, in different organizations, you put forth a different front called, the business world, where it's not so much about kinship. It's mostly about what the bottom lines might be. So that is all I wanted to kind of clarify, that I'm learning that as I go, and I learned a lot more about being human than I previously would have put forth as an individual, I guess.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's talk about that, because I think it's important. I think it's an important part of the election, because it comes down, in my opinion, it should never be about gender, It should be about the character of the person. And it's quite impressive to me that you are talking about being human. How do you put that into context of your current position and also that you're looking to become the next Navajo Nation council for that area? How would you define that being human means? Let's take it one step level deeper.
Well, for me, humanity is recognizing our weaknesses, also our strengths, and also recognizing the same in other individuals, and also collectively applying, I guess, I don't want to say emotions, but I guess love, charity, empathy, just showing that you understand to a degree where the person is coming from. And I think that's been lost in a lot of our conversations. I mean, the connections that are made overall. I mean, let me just say this, the absence of that, or maybe the lack of respect for it, has also caused a lot of rifts in relationships across the board, whether it's between I guess siblings, or parent and child, or grandparents and children, or even now to our governmental level of our executive and legislative branch, the judicial system. It's failing us as we are looking at this overall. And I think our predecessors, our ancestors, even before our time and even hundreds of years ago, had designed a system, one for, scientific, genetic preservation, yes, but also, secondly, it was designed to resolve issues, conflicts, differences in opinions. I think it's an intricate design, and there's a reason why it's put in place.
Yeah, I mean, there's a higher level. There's a higher level of intelligence. A higher level of intelligence that really does infiltrate. And here's what I think the narrative that's out there, which I personally have an issue with. That narrative is that because we're Navajo, the automatic assumption is that we are lack. We have a lack mentality. I think, where does that lack mentality come from? Is it based on our own blueprint as a Navajo society? Or has it been given to us by the established major government? There's got to be a defining line, because I think the candidates that are running, in my opinion, whether they're for president or council, they need to absolutely be aware the context and the role of the Navajo Nation government. We are unique. We will always be unique. It is that. It just is. We're not going to predicate our government based on another form of government. We truly are sovereign. Then let's behave like a sovereign government, or having inherent powers. So, what do you think at this point? I know it's going to be a difficult question. What do you think at this point, you as a candidate? I mean, we've got a week and 1 day and a few hours left. That's it. What do you think right now that sets you apart? You need to tell the audience what sets you apart as a candidate from your region. from your chapters?
Thank you, Mr. Nez. That's a question that I've been thinking about since you posed it the first time. I can tout my educational background. I can say this and that. I guess maybe also could touch on the gender issue that I am the only woman running from the NOS region. But that in itself doesn't tell a story. I think character-based, as you've said, I would agree with you. And that's not to say that, there's a long list of, I guess, accomplishments or experiences that have been brought forth. But I will say this, I am, of the three of us that have been running or are running, I'm the only one that have produced a lot of resolutions, write a lot of letters. I have also helped in drafting some legislation for a central government over the last 2 years. And also have worked on a lot of the documents with Peabody Coal Company, or I should say not the coal company, but with Black Mesa Review Board. And I do have a lot of resources. I do have a lot of people I know. My network is, I should say, vast in terms of knowing what my weaknesses are and where people shine. One of those is policies and information related to water and environmental stewardship, and in other cases, things that I don't know much about. Okay. So I do have friends in those areas, and I'm willing to admit that I don't know everything. But I also am probably of the three candidates, the only one that has been to a leadership training. In this case, for me, it was at Dartmouth Leadership Academy. Did that. I do have connections with other indigenous leaders. Potawatomi, Oneida, Omaha, the Oklahoma tribes, etc. So I do have a network in that regard, and also borrow a lot of their thoughts and ideas and try to find a way to solve some of our problems on Navajo, because some of these tribes are light years ahead of the Navajo Nation. But we are also, I think, probably one of the only tribes, aside from several other ones that have also made moves to preserve their culture and identity, and probably some of the only tribes that still live in some of our ancestral, I guess, structures, meaning hogans, etc. So I think coming from that perspective and looking at it from that side, I can say that I'm well versed. I do have a bachelor's degree in healthcare administration. I also have a background in political science, and I also have an MBA, and I'm working on my master's of science and accountancy. So those are just a few things that I am dabbling in. I'm also currently studying for the LSAT. So that's just some things that I'm putting forth just to find ways to move forward as a nation, as a people, and trying to acquire those skills to be able to help our nation move forward.
Rishi, Brady and Nick as an underskidole.
Yeah, I might not answer you in Navajo though.
Arashi and Nick as a hash. Ashibini Rahi at all. Didn't need ka.
Gushi?
Haladina, the is a co 18 Nabazargi, ice and Hilon, Hilat 8 or Mode J, Hilahit, or Ibis better Hosen. Tannet or Hayu. A co Tira, the Queen Loy. ako later sa ko again khayli hata ewe hut o hisang hosil na the kui go shi bikes ko hut o na hosil na ako ada to the kui shi at ego sa a wonder rock na hot the council do legislative branch or the kui shi ranch that a enterprise that a soban city ako ash khayda ki ko e ba khayzi ki Edish han sogodatse ichi sad nana
Adobahi Zigisha. Is that something that we could
shi ko
probably?
inde
Oh, so one of the things that I've been looking at is climate resiliency and environmental stewardship. One of the first resolutions, or at least my first projects when I go into council, is to get a supporting legislation to establish a Navajo Nation Climate Action Commission, largely because we don't have our own climate vulnerability assessments. We don't have any greenhouse gas inventory. We don't really have a viable or sustainable drought and water resiliency planning in our books, or how to prevent wildfire and forest or how to do forest restoration. Everything is always reactive. And just last week, I had partners from Kansas State University and also University of New Mexico come to Shanto to do a brownfield redevelopment 101 course for individuals that were interested. I think that falls in line with our climate action initiatives, redevelopment being in areas that have been abandoned, business sites and home sites and various other structures from the federal to the local level. We are also not focusing on energy, green workforce development, or even renewable. We do have renewable energy and battery storage planning, but nothing in place that would allow us to carry that out in a manner that is sustainable or is beneficial to us. And I think it's important that we start looking at that portion of our planning as a nation. The other is water security, water rights. And one of the things that I've noticed, and I just remembered now that you asked me what I didn't know. One of the things that I didn't know is that some communities across Navajo, Oljeto being one of them, have no viable source of potable water. They have to depend on other communities to be able to provide water to their people that live there. Helchita is an example of that. Currently, NTUA is hauling water daily for cooking use, and it has not been sustainable as it has to be done every day. And there's no solutions currently in the works to mitigate or even to fix that situation. And I think overall, those are the kinds of things that we really need to examine. Conversely, we also have underground water systems, aquifers that are currently not being recharged due to the drought situations. Ironically or blessedly, whatever way that you want to look at this, Shanto currently sits on a huge aquifer, and it's been, I guess, the envy of Arizona, the state of Arizona, to try and get to those wells or those underground aquifers that the Navajo Nation has, the states being the first ones to have rights to water if we as a nation don't do anything about it. And how do we gain our water rights? How do we claim those rights so we're able to best serve our local communities. How can Chonso serve Aljeto and vice versa? How can Rough Rock or Round Rock get water in the coming years? And how do we solve that as legislators and also executive, executive workers, branches, presidents, or elected officials in these communities? So I just wanted to bring that forth, and I think that's something that's vastly, it's important that we look at these things.
Okay. Now, brought up a very, like, this is totally about climate change.
It's about our resources. Yeah.
It's about it's about the resources. It's about yeah, just that I should say it's about the environment, basically. You talk about these initiatives. So let's take your chapters that you're running for. Name like which one of these, or maybe all of them, specifically. How would you apply this specific information you just gave us? How would you apply it to the chapters? Specifically to these chapters.
To the NOS region chapters?
Yeah.
For the climate resiliency?
Yes, all of them. Water, climate.
Yeah, so I mentioned brownfield as a redevelopment. For us, for the Shanso area, we do have like a couple of abandoned structures. One BIA day school, a store that has not been used but is currently, I should say, condemned, and it's still being used as a post office because there's no other place. The Black Mesa store, which I guess in the leases, I shouldn't say guess, I know from the previous BIA leases, there was no provisions made on how to, I guess, redevelop those areas. And when we're looking at this for business site leases, at least I think it should be the task of the Navajo Nation Department of Economic Development to be finding dollars to redevelop these areas. And a lot of it can go through the brownfield redevelopment funds. And also the same with Aljeto, a caved-in chapter house, Navajo Mountain, various other places that have abandoned locations. It's Beacon, same thing. Crossroad area, there's a couple of abandoned buildings there. That's one. And the other is drought, longstanding drought. I'm not really aware or wasn't cognizant of how bad drought was, because it's always been like this all my life. It was until like maybe 4 years ago, there was a rainfall that was substantial in the Shanto area. And some flowers, I never thought that there would be flowers in Shanto, or at least where we lived. And the flowers were really pretty. They were colorful, yellow, purple, all of these things that I had never seen before. And my mom was especially happy to see these things. And along with it came various other insects and animals and so forth that had not been seen here for a while. And one of those was the bug. I think it's called, I don't remember in Navajo, a satnege or something like that. The dish or whatever. I've never seen one in my life, but they're black and red. And So when I was looking at that bug, I said, Mom, there's a bug here that I've never seen before. And she looked at it and she goes, I have not seen those in a long time. And since then, I have not seen another one because it hasn't really rained in this area. So when we're looking at these initiatives, we don't have a mitigation plan. And I believe that coordinating this, establishing this commission who's well versed in, that have backgrounds in coordinating and planning climate action initiatives, I think it would be beneficial for us to at least establish some just policies that would enable us to survive and stay resilient as a people and as a nation. So, and suffice to say that I don't know a lot about, I guess, the terminology for the various aspects. Like, I know about energy, but I don't work in the energy sector. So my knowledge as far as that goes is 101, but I don't have a problem reaching out to people that know a lot more about it and learning more about how it would look if the Navajo Nation was to move towards a certain energy initiative, and also doing research related to that. I do know about funding. I do know about, I guess, workforce development, and quite a bit about, I guess, being resilient as an individual, and applying that to community resiliency across the Navajo Nation is going to be a task in itself, but I think it's doable.
Again, I think that, okay, you mentioned the Shanto aquifer.
Yeah, the aquifer. Yeah.
Yeah, what can specifically be, how could that be addressed? What do you think?
I think more wells, potable water wells. That would be a first step in, I guess, securing some of the rights to the aquifer. In addition to that, the application of some of these things I've seen in other communities where they're doing their own water commissions and having the local microgrids of their own watering system. And I think that could be done. And I don't know if NTUA is listening, but they're always looking out for rivals. I'm just going to say that sometimes competition is a good thing, and the preservation of our resources in any capacity, in any way that we could be the first ones to have first dibs to it is imperative to securing those rights overall. One of the things that doesn't sit right with me is statistics that maybe we're proud of, but I don't see it the same way. For example, companies that say that Navajos use less power than the average U.S. resident, or Arizona or Utah or New Mexico. I think that reduces our rights and diminishes it. Same with the water. Like, Navajos use less water than a typical U.S. resident. I think those statistics are only hurting us because it's opening the doors to other neighboring, I guess, entities to take more of what belongs or what should belong to the nation.
Thank you. Let's kind of pivot over to another aspect of this follow-up interview. I appreciate you coming back, and because I think it's important, because we need to kind of fine-tune certain areas that you want to address, and I want to just kind of give you a really quick list, the rundown of topics that everybody has answered. And I'd like for you to select two, and we will concentrate on those two for the remainder. And at the very end, I'd like for you to do the closing comments. So these were the topics that we covered: legislative
Okay.
and executive branch constant conflict, economic
Mm-hmm.
development, business Navajo Business Opportunity Act, the enterprises, the ranches, the 638 healthcare, 638 police, 638 schools, and veterans. Pwede na kikundi nito, and we'll proceed from there.
I think maybe I'll go with the veterans, because I have family members and friends that are veterans.
Okay.
And one of the things, and also people that are, coming onto the nation. Let me see how to go about this. I know that veterans, for the most part, on the nation, they're underserved. One of those things that doesn't really sit right with me is that we do have veteran organizations across the 110 chapters, and what they get is 5,000, I believe, 5,000 allocation of $5,000 a year, and specifically dedicated to prizes and food. Two things, and that's the only thing they can spend their money on. And also those dollars, I should say. And then in addition to that, of the dollars that are allocated over the 110 chapters, only one veteran a year is served with housing, and that could take some time as well. So we're looking at people that have dedicated their lives to serving not only the U.S., but also in some capacity. They are knowledge holders for, I guess, a lot of things. I guess a case in point that I could bring forward is during COVID, I ended up taking a ride in the ambulance because I caught COVID. I was one of the first ones back in March of 2020. And I was afraid to call any of my family members to get a ride back from the healthcare facility to, I guess, my home at that time. And because I didn't want to get anyone sick. But who volunteered? My volunteer was my Shiaj, my uncle, Nelson. And he had N95 mask, which was scarce at that time. And he's a veteran of the U.S. Army, always willing to, I guess in this case, he didn't know how COVID would affect him. Only knew that I had it. There was currently no cure. So he picked me up, and what he did was he sprayed me down completely with Lysol. And in all of my readings that I had done previously I guess the advice was to put the person in the back seat and make sure that they didn't come in contact with the driver. Well, when my uncle picked me up, or my Yash picked me up, he did the opposite. He put me in the front, and he just gave me a mask, and he said, wear this, let's go. Sprayed me down, of course, and I asked him, I said, hey, in the readings that I have done, technically, I shouldn't be sitting in the back. I should be sitting in the back, not the front. And he goes, no, I don't agree with it. In warfare studies that we have done and what I went through, the training that I went through, it's best to contaminate less of an area. If you're in the back, then I have to clean everything in the back and then everything in the front. He said, if you're here, he goes, I'm pretty much protected. Can wash these clothes, and I'm up front. There's a less surface area for me to clean. And I just want to bring that forth because when there are certain things that are happening which the average individual doesn't have the skills or the knowledge to address. We do have veterans and other individuals that have been trained on a lot of these things, whether it was like in the 80s, might be old, but it still works, you know. So I think one of those things is why I think we don't really look at veterans as knowledge holders nor as protectors, and they kind of fall by the wayside. One of those also is mental illnesses, which some of it stem from, for us now, the Gulf War veterans, and also those that served not in peacetime, but during the times of conflict, all the way to the Afghans and so forth. So I think right now we don't really serve those veterans. We don't address their traumas or their healthcare needs. And certainly for a lot of these veterans, we also don't address their housing needs or their transportation needs across the board. And I believe that for me, if I were a veteran, getting $5,000 for a veteran, I guess, for veterans to get prizes and to eat is a slap in the face. I mean, that's the best that our nation can do. And I think what we really need to do is support them, give them assistance, give them access to dollars, and maybe even help them to generate revenue, either as business owners or as as citizen. If they want to open a business, we should have some dollars available for them to be able to do that. If they want to continue their education, or if they want to access various other entities, whether it's benefit assistance or behavioral health services, those should be open to them.
Yeah, thank you. There's a lot of background noises. I apologize about that. One of the things that I'm thinking about here is we're talking about these might some would be repetitive questions, but I'd like for you to address them because what you just talked about is basically utilizing the veterans that are there and applying their knowledge and their skills to rather than just possibly stating that they're important during the political season. And for me personally, I got to tell you, I don't like that. I don't like them being used as a political campaign reference.
Yeah.
Their needs are constant, and they never ask where they're going, and they just did their duty.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I really honestly feel, because I think this is where there's a defining responsibility that lays on somebody. And that somebody that I'm talking about is the United States government and the Navajo Nation. One of those two, or both, needs to absolutely bring some assistance, help. Because, my gosh, these guys put their livelihood or life on the line on our behalf in a lot of cases. So whose responsibility do you think that is? United States, Navajo Nation?
On this services to the veterans, I think it's both. It's both our responsibilities. Largely, yes, they serve the nation. The U.S. government. I mean, I've heard the opposite side, like, why are we in it when they didn't serve the nation in particular? But we are a nation within a nation, and we do send our people out there to serve. And from that, I mean, their service may also bring them benefits in terms of education. And also, they also bring back other things that benefit us as a nation, skills, ideas, and very much, I think, for us to be able to move forward, they are the reason why we are where we are. If it wasn't for them, I mean, people like to use Navajo code talkers, won the war. I wholly agree with it. It was our language that won the war. So when we're looking at it from that aspect, it's also important to know that they also have a different perspective because of their life experience that we might not recognize or see. One of the things that I noticed about, I guess, veterans in my family is that they're always very aware, hyper aware of where they are, their location, who's around them. And as for me, I was like, I'm not really looking at those things. I guess innately you would say that I'm not as aware or hyper aware as they are, and it has served me well to have to be able to see that as well. And they also teach us a lot of skills. I mean, when I was younger, I had an uncle who went to the Marine Corps, uncle that I learned a lot from. And one of the things that I didn't know, and I apologize ahead of time, I'm not going to give a name, but he had his own struggles when he came back from the military, transitioning from, I guess, military life to civilian life, coming back to a location that didn't really offer the same services or the same outlook that he had as a military veteran, which also led to depression and also various other things, social ills that it kind of uncovered and affected his life in a negative way. So that portion is also overlooked when veterans do return to the nation. They're used to a certain way of life, and when they come back, it almost seems like there is no place for them. And that has caused a lot of issues along the way, whether it's in peacetime or in conflicts, areas of conflicts. And our focus tends to be on PTSD, but I think it's present even if they had just served in peacetime. That transition isn't there. It's not available to them. And I think that's something that we also need to examine. So there's a lot of give and take. And there is nothing in place for that to be addressed. It's just like, oh, hey, they're back. Welcome back. Let's have food for you, and good luck on what you want to do next. And then they're remembered again when maybe they're seeking assistance, or, as you put it, election time. And I do agree with you, wholly agree with you, that it should not be the case. We should be able to transition these warriors back into society in some capacity, and to also be able to draw from their experience as well. And I think it's imperative to the survival of the Navajo Nation, and also the U.S. government. And back to your question, it's both the U.S. government's responsibility and the Navajo Nation's responsibility to take care of our family members that have served. And I think it's imperative that we also focus on them as well.
Yeah. You said the United States government and the Navajo Nation is their responsibility.
Yep.
But right now, that's kind of how it's set up. So why isn't it working? And what would you do to make sure that that's working? Let's get into some specifics.
This question stems all the way to the healthcare delivery system in the U.S. Since the 1980s, the U.S. government's GDP, gross domestic product, has been outpaced by the healthcare dollars that it spends on various, healthcare initiatives across the nation. And of that, Native Americans make up about 2.7% of the dollars that are served in terms of healthcare delivery. And this has long been a thorn in my side since I've learned this. And in it is also our veterans in that system. And in an effort to reduce, I guess, the delivery of care, the amount it costs, CMS, Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, have reduced the amount of funding or have tried to streamline various things, various services by reducing the amount of time providers spend with a patient. And also the same with bringing on more of the nurse practitioners and less of the physicians that are available across the board. And again, the reduction in time, and also looking at only one thing. If somebody came in with a sinus infection, and if they're also complaining of something else, they might only be treated for the sinus infection, and for the other one, they might not get treated for. So, and you'll hear things like we're doing it to reduce fraud, we're doing it to do blah 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 blah. But all of those have not really worked. The healthcare costs has still outpaced the U.S.'s GDP. And now, as members of Indian nations and also veterans across the board are being blamed for taking a large number of those dollars and using it for, I guess, their healthcare. And when I look at that, and they're reducing dollars more and more, I feel like when we talk about these bigger issues, the advocacy for how that would change isn't really there. It's only, remember, we have our IHS, I guess, head honchos that have never set foot on the reservation. They're somewhere in Maryland. And I had I shouldn't say the privilege, but I was able to meet a few of those individuals in Las Vegas back in March. And I asked them what they plan to do as far as more delivery of services related to not only just ambulatory services that they give, but also on a larger scope, what was IHS doing to close the gap as far as nursing homes and long-term care was concerned? Because right now you're only giving us Band-Aids, and it's the same with veterans care. You don't see a comprehensive care initiative anywhere. They're just putting Band-Aids on, I guess, their disabilities. And for the US, they have a metric system on how they do that, but a veteran has to work really hard to be able to attain some of the classification that allows access to additional benefits. And I think that's unfair. There should be a set benefit that's set across the board for, I guess, at a minimum, something that's comprehensive for all veterans, so they're not spending a lot of their dollars to get classification ratings that would allow them to receive more benefits. And we don't have anything in a place like that on the nation itself to assist with that. I've heard of veterans that were paying other entities to kind of prove that they needed a higher rating than what they were getting as far as access to certain disability benefits, and they have to fight for this through attorneys, through paying extra dollars to these entities to be able to attain those benefits. So I think that is where the Navajo Nation could be of assistance, being able to take care of their of the veterans that we do have to provide that assistance. So it's not coming out of their pockets. The nation is able to help them gain access to the benefits that are due to them. And also that case, a lot of the veterans have to travel off of the Navajo Nation to seek care in larger cities where they have comprehensive access to care, surgery, etc. I know that Kienta has a veterans clinic, but more or less it's a ambulatory clinic, and I think there's a couple of other locations. But if they wanted, or if they had to get surgery, then they'd have to travel either to Phoenix or Albuquerque or other places to be able to gain access to that. And that in itself creates hardship. If you've ever, I don't know if you're a veteran, Mr. Naz, but I've
No, I'm not.
listened to veterans be on hold for hours and hours trying to get through to a benefit coordinator to be able to get reimbursed for travel that they did, or to make an appointment. And I think that also is unfair.
Okay, yeah. I mean, no doubt. I'm kind of still
Mhm.
listening for exactly what might be the solution to address everything
Well,
that
I
you
think the
outlined.
solution that I've said is this, like the Navajo Nation should be able to provide support, um, monetary support, and also have a streamlined communication with the U.S. government's Veteran Administration, so that better care and faster care can be provided to our veterans on the nation.
So, what about the you also mentioned healthcare. We talked about that.
Hmm.
What needs to happen there now?
In terms of,
Healthcare. Because
I hear,
here's the thing that I keep
yeah.
having trouble with.
Hmm.
We have the United States. They serve for the United States government.
Hmm.
There's a lot of off reservation non Navajos, all over the country that, but for some reason, in my opinion, they seem to be deserted by the country that they serve. And here's the Navajo Nation, the Navajo people, Navajo veterans, who get a double jeopardy. And that double jeopardy is their first, like, the access for reasons, whatever the reason is. There's a lack of service, serious healthcare, whatever it is, in order to take care of them. But then also then there's the Navajo Nation. But ultimately, the difference is the Navajo Nation didn't they didn't serve the Navajo Nation. They served the country on behalf of the Navajo Nation. So there's a delineated, to me, is a very defining difference. Because of that, what should be the solution? Because where does the Navajo Nation interface with the federal government and also with the veteran themselves?
I think there is one thing that we're failing to address with that question, that the veterans are still Navajos. They are still citizens of the Navajo Nation, and the majority of them still have their census number. And where the system fails them, that is where we should be addressing a lot of the care that is needed to provide comprehensive benefits or resources. And how do we do that? And that goes again to being a citizen of the Navajo Nation. Individuals do have access to IHS, but our IHS is lacking in a lot of, I guess, comprehensive care. Where as a nation, we only focus on the ambulatory care initiatives that is currently put forth by IHS. I think, to my knowledge, Chinle and, well, Tuba City is a charter. Chinle is the only IHS, I believe it's IHS, it might be charter, is the only one that has beds available for I guess, care of individuals. So back to your question, like whose responsibility is it? So I guess the way that insurance and risk mitigation people would look at this is that what did we cause? What is our responsibility in this situation? Okay, we have a veteran that lost their hearing because of something that went off and it tore their eardrum. You know, that's our responsibility. And there's a lot of that give and take. And okay, so this person was in, you know, such and such a location where there was conflict, and this is what happened to them. So we'll pay for that. The larger picture, again, is back to your question: whose responsibility is it? The individual volunteered, you know, we could go off of that. But also, I think if we're looking at a blanketed analysis, they are still Native American, they are still Navajos. They are still our people, and they still need care. And where I think this is where I think, or I know, or I should say that IHS needs to step up their comprehensive care initiatives, not just to putting a Band-Aid on somebody or giving an aspirin to somebody or those things along those lines. I think we should really look at all the gaps and things that don't exist on the nation trauma facilities. 1 and 2, why aren't we asking IHS to bring that forward? Why are we not asking IHS to bring more I guess, mental health facilities out here that would serve our people, that would serve our needs? Why are we not asking IHS to bring in some nursing homes? And they would turn around and say, well, hey, you are a Navajo Nation, and we want you to be self-determined. We'll give you this leeway to be able to do these things, run your own healthcare facilities. Thereby also, in the eyes of many, alleviating their trust responsibilities from the federal government. And that's where our focus is when we should be looking at the comprehensive care that we should be asking the federal government to fulfill that is inclusive of all of our people, IHS, veterans, and I think the advocacy isn't there right now. The advocacy, and I think I heard Shaquille Begay talk about this. Of course, he's a healthcare professional, and he indicated that there should be a Navajo Nation Surgeon General. I wholly agree with that, because we have a HESI committee that is not only just focused on health, but education, and most of the people that are currently on that board don't have medical backgrounds. And I think bringing the individuals in that have the capacity or the ability and the knowledge to advocate on our behalf as a nation, whether or not we're veterans or whether or not we're just individual citizens across the Navajo Nation, I think it is the responsibility of our legislators, of our people, of our executive branch to be able to advocate for comprehensive and good health care for our people, regardless of their background.
Now you got my blood boiling or blood pumping now. That's amazing, because this is really exciting, because I think that most of the people that are running, they need to just have on the tip of their tongue, because I'm glad you said this. This is perfect, because we have health facilities, whether they're 638 or not. Fact is that there's health facilities. Health is already there. Why not just give an extended arm or an area that's specifically VA? And so now you're like, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. No pun intended there, but it's just like a no-brainer to me. And then, but we've got to have the oversight. But one thing that I'm hoping, and I'm glad you said this, because I totally believe, di the nani klini to an hitten ne don hin sa case lini to bazini glida. Ako di that an hi atatsiti kesko. Put all United States government kwaigin here veterans. Nahoti. You owe something. Our military people gave you our language. You cannot ever repay. Not only that, you took our land across the United States. You could never repay. At least take care of our people, just like you said. That's beautiful. Take care of our veterans. At least give us that fiduciary responsibility you have to the treaties. What, that's very impressive. Um, did you say $5,000 per year per veteran? Is that what you said?
No, not per veteran, per a veteran unit. I guess I'm not sure what they call themselves, the command
A
units.
legion, like a legion.
Yeah, like 110 chapters. Each of those
Yeah,
get 5,000
five
and
thousand
yeah,
dollars for them to
5,000
use.
for prizes and food. That's the
What?
only thing.
What would explain prizes?
I have no clue. You know, it could be like whatever they want to buy or recognize somebody.
A
And
prize.
a prize. If you
Can't they
read the
come up
line
with a
item,
better? Can't they figure out a better word for that? A
that's
prize is
all it says.
like that sounds to me like a bribe.
No, I know. Look at the budget for the Navajo Nation. You'll see that we get allocations that are sent to the chapters, and they reserve it for the veterans. And even in the books, there it says prizes and food for veterans. And
Wow,
I
prizes and
just,
veteran.
yeah,
Let's go.
and
If they're holding a bingo game, let's provide the prizes for the bingo game.
mhm,
That could be interpreted like that. Um,
yeah,
wow, um,
yeah.
this is kind of a tricky question.
Okay.
What do you think if you're elected as council? Where would you? What do you think that each of the legions or outposts or office, whatever you call it, what do you think they should get that's reasonable? I mean, I don't think anybody's going to hold you to it, but it'd be amazing if you could answer that, recommending.
You know, the uncle that I had mentioned, he was looking for a way to incorporate Veterans Administration into the Navajo Nation government so that they're able to get larger allocations. They don't have to work through the chapters to get the dollars, you know, as a branch of the Navajo Nation. I'm not exactly sure. I'm still thinking about this, how that would work. And the only thing that comes to mind is establishing an office, much like, let's say, um, Office of Veteran Affairs. So we do have something like that on the nation, a director for Veterans Administration, but they have been largely absent in advocacy for veterans. I don't know if it's maybe I'll use this as an example. Private corporations across the board, they have safety programs, and they might appoint a person who's responsible for safety. In some organizations, it's just a title that somebody holds, you know.
Hmm.
It seems to be the case on the Navajo Nation. You have a director for veterans, and where are they? You know, and what are they doing? Is the status quo just still, 5,000 for each of, I guess, the legions, as you put it, for veterans to be able to access these dollars? And it hasn't increased. And when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking like almost like, do we need a dedicated branch, or maybe a way to get funding straight to these organizations without having to funnel the dollars through the chapters? And also, even I guess with the Navajo Nation, could it be a separate branch? And I haven't been able to answer that question, and I haven't really. I thought about different ways of doing this because I think a lot of the dollars are lost in overhead And what trickles down is the bare minimum. And that's also the same with local governance and various other entities. So, Mr. Nez, I'm just going to say this. I'm still brainstorming. I need to learn a lot more about that. And I am looking for solutions left and right. And it's something that I'd like to see come to fruition in some capacity. And what that looks like, I don't know right now. And I've been thinking about it for about a year and a half now since the proposal was made. And I currently am still looking for a way to do that.
Yeah. Well, the real interesting thought is that, I think the legislatures and the government and chapters and even individuals in these veteran organizations, by applying to these, I mean, of course, there's got to be some subsidies that absolutely is necessary for the Navajo Nation
Yeah.
and also the federal government, if not the state, wherever. But,
Yeah.
but there's need there. And
Yeah.
as long as we can continue to overturn, look under every stone possible, that's all we ask. But
Yeah.
there's also a mechanism. You work for nonprofit organizations,
Yeah.
and there's a
It's that
lot
effect.
of national organizations that donate. And if you have the Navajo Code Talkers, who wouldn't want to the Navajo Code Talker Association, or at least some a branch of that or an affiliation of that? Man, the money is there, but why is it
Yeah.
just dead? That's the question always.
A few, I was in a Shiprock for one of our events for Change Labs a few weeks ago. And there was a guy among them who was seeking assistance and I assume a fiscal sponsorship and trying to get some dollars that were allocated to build a monument for veterans in San Benito. I guess there's designated land there. And I believe the governor of New Mexico was holding those funds to try and get it to the Navajo Nation. And the idea was that the Navajo Nation would also match those dollars, but it never came about and it hasn't happened yet. So, if there was a nonprofit veterans organization, something that I explored, I'm not exactly sure whether or not one entity would be able to serve the different regions on Navajo, so because they all have different needs. So I was just brainstorming some other things, access to federal dollars like that, government to government, one side asking for matching funds, and also a place to hold those dollars, so that these projects can come to fruition.
I think
That capacity wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, I think money can be gotten, but
Yeah,
then
money is
again,
available. It's just the mechanism to get it from point A to point B.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because somewhere along the line, somebody's going to trim a whole hell of a lot of money. I mean, that's a fact. So, of course, so you're listening to Politics on Navajo Nation. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our guest is MARSHA Greyeyes, and this is really exciting because she just lit my fire just now about the responsibility about the veteran. We've been talking about veterans. I think they're important, and I think we need to. But even myself, I don't think everybody has the answers. But as long as we can continue to fight, that's all we can ask. And I think that we love you, veterans. We care about you. We're going to do everything we can, or these new elected leaders, Marsha, get up there. Now, let's walk down, okay? This will be amazing for you and only you today as a so far. Let's walk down just so that the chapters that you'll be representing will understand that you understand their needs. And you go through each chapter and what you can think of first
Okay.
to address, hey, you need this, and I'll do what I can and possibly provide a solution.
Hmm. Well, let me start with the way that we're structured, meaning NOS, the acronyms, starting with Navajo Mountain, rural location. Uh, there's only one road in and one road out. So in terms of paved roads, and long been some difficulties accessing Navajo Mountain through undeveloped roads. So from Shanto through Tall Mountain all the way to Nansasaan, it goes down into Paiute Canyon, which is it's an unpaved road, and if it's a grueling road. You go up, but the incline is pretty significant. The decline as well. So one of the initiatives is building that road, and I believe it was a $33 billion initiative. And right now, I think the first phase would be to find dollars to get an assessment, engineering assessment, a feasibility study. Um, I don't know how many dollars that would take, probably about 5 million in my estimation, and then start doing phase projects for Navajo Mountain. That's one problem. The other is access to water. So water lines, that is, for the people that live in those rural locations. Of course, with water comes infrastructure development. There's no stores out there. There's no convenience stores. There's no grocery stores. People have to travel miles. So road, for one, is important, but also sustaining life in terms of access to food and water is also important. Um, so that's my first thought on that when I think of Navajo Mountain. Moving down from there to Oljeto, they do want developed roads, but I think the larger concern right now, at least for me when I'm looking at them, is access to water for the outliers, the people that live in rural areas, and again, the community of Helchita. And also the San Juan River having some oil residue still in them from, as I was told, runoff from the Anath oil fields that bleed some oil into the San Juan River. So when I think about this, access to potable water is imperative to Oljeto, and it's important to address that. Of course, there's also uranium mines, former uranium mines, and the health effects related to that for the people that live in the area. And of course, just like Navajo Mountain, I guess maybe the third biggest thing is roads. So that's something that I would consider, I think, is a major problem for also Shanto, which is also roads and water, access to water in the northern area of Shanto and also the eastern area. Rugged and rural country, most of it is rocks, I guess cliffs and canyons. So building those, the elevations and the amount of dollars it would take is significant, and the same with extending power lines. So that would be Shanto area. And of course, paving roads to some of the major locations. Community within communities, I would say right now, 221 is one of the most important routes that is currently used by residents in the White Post area. White Post probably has about, I'd say maybe 100 people that live there, and they're consistently driving on dirt roads to get to a paved road. And then, of course, the next sector is Tall Mountain area. The roads there are unpaved, but significantly less people live in the area. But at the very beginning, maybe on the, I shouldn't say maybe, the outskirts of Shanto, meaning from the school, there's probably a lot more people that live in that area, but they have to drive on dirt roads as well. So for those areas, I'd say road infrastructure, and for the roads that do exist, hard tops. My area, 564, has, which is an Arizona state route, has a lot of crumbling roads and potholes, and we just don't have the traffic that is required to be on the ADOT list. 160 takes precedence because they have over 1,000 people driving that road on our end. People and tourists that are accessing the road comes to about 400 people throughout the year that use the roads. So I think in numbering systems, advocacy for the development of those roads are important. And then, of course, Beacon, one of the areas that they're really looking at is building a hardtop all the way down south of them, which is Route 16. And for the most part, Beacon is pretty well developed in terms of power lines and water lines. I think their biggest concern right now is the hardtop, getting a road that accesses Tall Mountain and a way to get to 160 through Tunalia. So that's those would be the things that I would think about or what I would address. And I did follow up on Route 16 for Beacon, and that was a legislation that was never introduced by our delegate, even though the paperwork and everything is currently sitting at NDOT. So that is one of the major issues that I think about when I look at these communities.
What was the total on that legislation that's sitting at NDOT?
I believe they're looking at 7 more miles. But altogether, I believe it's 13 miles because a portion of that goes through another chapter, which is Tunalia.
What about costs?
I think it was the last that I've seen, or I was told, paving 1 mile of road has now rose to $4 million a mile. So 40, 50K or 50 million, something like that.
So you're saying it's about 50 miles long?
No, it's like 13 miles. So 10 times 4 is
40.
what? 40. Yep. And then add 3 more miles.
Yep. So it doesn't. I'm looking at 52. You, Marsha.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you versus how you describe it. Because are you saying there's only one main road that goes from the main hub kind of down by, I don't know what that road's called, between Tisaspas and Cayenta? But you're saying that.
No. I'm talking about the community of Navajo Mountain.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. You're saying that there's only one road that goes in and there's no other road. How many miles of the road is that?
To Navajo Mountain, it's only Route 16 that comes off of 98, SR 98 Arizona State Route, the road that runs to Page, Arizona. That's the only paved road that goes into Navajo Mountain. Although you have an undeveloped
road. Is it paved all the way?
It's paved to, they call it Rainbow City. It's where the school is. That's a spawn. Okay. But down below, the community extends downwards again into the canyon, which is Paiute Canyon. And it goes up on the other side through the other portion of Navajo Mountain and also into Tall Mountain and eventually into Shanto. that road is undeveloped, and that's one that we're looking at trying to get a hard top on to be able to access the community of Navajo Mountain from two sides. For example, if the road to, I guess, to Beacon from Navajo Mountain were to close, the only way out would be through Paiute Mesa, through Tall Mountain to Shanto.
And
And
these are back
portions of
roads.
that area, yeah, and portions of that area get really sandy, especially now when it's not raining, sand dunes and so forth. So it creates hardship in its own capacity. And there's also another initiative related to that, which is to connect Natsasan with Oljeto. Oljeto, I had to say it in Navajo. That's also another, I think it was a $33 billion project again to connect those two Utah communities, access to both communities, because for one, people that live in Oljeto are related to people that live in Navajo Mountain. They have to take 160 all the way around and drive through Shanto and Beacon to visit their relatives, a whole day trip. Just to do that, to spend maybe a couple of hours and then turning around to get home before it gets dark for most of the elderly people, and some of them will drive at night. So, I mean, that is also something to think about overall as well. And of course, the sustainability of the place itself in terms of access to food and water and much needed, I guess, public resources.
Wow. But that's a beautiful area, though. It really is.
It is. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area because you're kind of like northwestern part of Monument Valley.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's really cool. Any other thing that you can share about your
I know
individual
that
chapters?
regionally, I guess regionally, at least for Natsasan, not Oljeto, but Shanto and Tzafikin, we don't have a transfer station for waste. So that's another initiative that we're looking at to start off with, start working on.
Yeah. Now,
So
what is
yeah,
NOST? NOST? What is that? What's the
NOS is
acronym?
the acronyms for all of the chapters. So Natsasan is the N, the O is
OJ12
Oljeto, and then S is Shanto, and
Toronto.
T is Beacon. So it was an acronym that was coined by former delegate and also former President Jonathan Nance when he was delegate of the region.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so I guess instead of ONST or TON, tons or whatever, SNOT, NOS was the best acronym, and it serves um, purposes in both Navajo and
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
guess in
glad they didn't
English.
call it snot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Um,
knots.
yeah, or
So,
nuts. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So
thank you
I think
very
it was
much,
a
Marsha.
genius. Yeah, I think it was a genius
Yeah,
invention.
that's cool. Nos, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've been at it for about an hour and a half. And any other things that you want to share with you? Because this is it, man. You got a week
Well,
and one
Mr.
day.
Nance,
That's it.
yeah, I want to thank you for being able to provide this platform to us. I think it's necessary. It also saves some dollars on my end in traveling and also providing information. And it gives me the opportunity to be able to, I guess, expand on some of the topics that were given to us by you, and also your thoughts as well as a member of the Navajo Nation. And I really appreciate that. And I also want to extend my appreciation to the people that are listening right now. I know that, an hour and a half of your time is significant. I also want to ask for more of your time when you are voting on July 21st, 2026. Please practice your civic duties and vote for the best candidate. For the NOS region, please vote for me. I'm number 2 on the ticket for the NOS region, Navajo Mountain, Oljeto, Shanto, and TBK. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in some capacity in the next few days. I will also be making stops on election day for each of the chapters. I will probably see you at the food stand or wherever you may be. So thank you. And thank you for the opportunity again, Mr. Nez.
So, yeah, thank you so much, because all the listeners, thank you. There's a lot of you. I want to thank you that you really, really do care enough to, like she said, to come and join us and to listen to the candidates, because this is serious. This is serious business. This is not about a popularity contest. This is about our future. We're not going to be screwing around with these type of just whoever throws their hat in and it's a popularity contest. No, we want these people to know what the hell they're doing, what their background is, where they're going to take us. And collectively, once they're elected at their chapter, they're going to be all get together in Window Rock, and they're going to be working for us. Ako e komban sa daw keso o bohot ni ko she did be Kate Nia no god netla na ka even you have Kate Nia sa da budishno no it's or shika deal with it don't need. Well, if somebody else said that to you, would you just jump in blindly without knowing? Ask them. And okay, just in closing, Marsha, so that you can uh, just make yourself available. What is your tentative schedule from now? Like at the location, the dates, the times. If you have your schedule in front of you, if not, that's okay, because they can
Yeah, I do have a
also,
schedule.
yeah, let them know, because I would. These people who were interviewed, yeah, vote for them. Okay, the ones that didn't, because believe me, I reached out. I reached out. I gave this format, and they refuse. So, give us your schedule, Marsha.
So my schedule this coming week on, let's see, Monday I will be in Shanto, and also I'll be at Inscription House again at the chapter meeting. On Saturday, I will be at the Shanto Rodeo. I'll be serving ice cream, so if you want to have a free scoop of ice cream and, grill me on some things, I'll be available there. And the following day, the 19th, I will be in Oljeto, and I hope to see you there as well. I believe that Navajo Mountain also has a meeting coming up. I hope to make that meeting as well. So I'm not sure on the date for that one yet. I need to look at my schedule, but definitely on Monday, I will be at Apikin chapter. In the evening, I'll be at Shanto, also at the Shanto Rodeo, and then in Oljeto on Sunday.
On election day, Naro.
And election day, I will try and be at all of the sites throughout the day at different times. So we will be available. Some of my helpers will be there serving food, and I will be showing up throughout the day at different locations. So that's my thing, and I'll likely, and I will actually start out with Navajo Mountain again, Oljeto, Shanto, and Zapikin. So I guess I'll be driving from one end to the other and then coming back. So
you'll be coming out of the canyon out and then going back.
Yeah,
wow,
exactly.
That'd be so fun. Well, good luck. And again, thank you very much. And one of the things I got to say this with my business hat on is that I am very, very impressed with your business knowledge, your exploration, your willing, your open-heartedness to explore these many, many different things. Those are the type of leaders that we need. Pansin keso na bin khat ashi ni sad dahil zi ne ko ni koron hiliata e jonia ako khaya hot eto aro digin neshodlo do lesto your campaign I wish you luck. Beautiful. This was a very powerful interview. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Nance.
So
Again, yeah, for I guess Nick should had this allt yeah, then I some angi then shikado baltrahasilo yeah do shed off nishino on July 21st dai nilo she ya na kikonesa for beshwatasan by shwatligi that's as ando or jetto do chancellor lords beacon with a hot zogi Aida ya hinchkade all that like yeah.
I knew it. I knew she was. I knew she was hiding something. I
I can
knew
speak
it.
it. I just have to put it myself in the mindset.
Jonia,
Yes.
yes, that's beautiful. Yes.
Thank
Jona,
you, Mr.
hey.
Nance. Yeah.
Oh, hagona.
All right. Good night. Bye.